Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Great to have you with us. Guests coming up tomorrow will include Ryan Snyder on recruiting, with tomorrow being National Letter of Intent Day, so I'll have Ryan Snyder tomorrow. And somehow, some way, we'll get Neil Coulong to explain the Steelers.
Oh, boy. I don't think anyone can explain the Steelers. I don't think the Steelers can explain the Steelers at this point.
It is. This is as sad. I mean, you're talking about a team that has been on a roll, always being in the playoffs, always being in the thick of it. I mean, they haven't done well in the playoffs in the last dozen years or so. They just haven't. It's just a fact. But they've been able to make it, have winning records, things like that. They've defied the odds of it.
The Mike Tomlin way.
But this year, they're just not a good football team this year.
Hey, give the ball to Mason Rudolph. He's back, baby.
And that explains it all. All right.
Yes, it does.
So there you are. That's what's going on with that. And we'll talk with Neil about that tomorrow. And then Ryan Snyder, from on3.com, who's their recruiting analyst specialist, who does a great job. I can tell you who doesn't do a great job. Me. But I'm in that spot where I've explained it 1,000 times, so we'll make it 1,001. And that is it's an NCAA violation if I talk about it before they sign.
Yeah.
So I can't do it.
So you ask people about what's going on.
Right. So, but tomorrow's different. They'll all be signed by the time. And we'll have Ryan on to talk about that tomorrow. So
very nice.
And then we'll be back here in the studio with you on Thursday and Friday.
Big time.
And a series of interviews next week.
Hey, Christmas is almost here. It's the season of interviews,
including David Callum, the play-by-play voice of Ole Miss, is going to join us next week. Wes Durham, the voice of the ACC, and the Atlanta Falcons is going to join us.
Who wants to talk about the Falcons? Ew.
Well, actually, we're going to talk exponentially more about the ACC. But right.
Hey, the ACC is getting good. Syracuse.
I do think we get their booth. He says, I think you do, as the, quote, home team of the game.
Makes sense.
So I want to go back to Saturday for a moment.
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, Penn State men's basketball.
Yeah. So, let's start with the base premise, all right? Anybody who sits there and says, well, they shouldn't have been in that position. It's like, brother. All right. You know what? You sit there and go, really? Okay, gotcha. There are moments in the game where Penn State played really well. There are moments in the game where Georgia Tech played really well. There are moments in the game where Penn State played lousy. There are moments in the game where Georgia Tech played lousy. There are moments in the game where both teams played well at the same time, and there are both points of the game where both teams played lousy at the same time. So in the end, it comes down to a play like that. You play 45 minutes of basketball with an up and down and an ebb and flow. Yes. If Ace Baldwin hits a free throw at the end, yes. If Penn State does a better job of rebounding, yes. But conversely, for Georgia Tech, if they didn't try to take the air out of the ball, didn't commit so many turnovers, had so many steals against. I mean, see, it's it's got to go both ways. The problem with a fan base is there's so tunnel vision on their team, they don't see the whole game. They just don't see the whole game at all. And they just see it from one side of it. There's a big wide world out there. A lot of people playing. So, now you get to the end. The number one thing for an official is you can't be just so everybody know, you can't be corrupt. Okay.
Well, it's a given.
No. In other words, like the Tim Donaghy thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So that aside. Okay. So now we take the illegal stuff aside. All right. The worst thing an official can do is guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he had no idea what happened on the play, and he guessed because he saw the Georgia Tech player down. Well, the Georgia Tech player, Miles Kelly, went down because after saving the ball, he fell down.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he hit the floor, all by his lonesome.
Mm-hmm. Ace Baldwin fell this way, and he fell this way.
Yeah.
They didn't fall near each other. There was clearly no legs tangled or anything.
Nothing. Not even close.
If you'd see someone's arms shove them, then it's a fall. It's a foul.
So now I want to then, now let's move forward from this. College basketball, of all the sports, just seems to take its sweet time doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Hey, everybody loves the three-point shot. Well, the ABA had the three-point shot. And then when the four teams merged into the NBA, the Pacers, the Spurs, and they merged the Nets and the Denver Nuggets all merged in. The NBA then absorbed the idea of the three-point shot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why did it take 6 years for college basketball to get the three-point shot? The NBA had a shot clock forever. Why did it take college basketball forever to get a shot clock? Until the mid-'80s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, when they got a shot clock, it was 45 seconds and not 24. What? Right, look, because I did games under all these rules.
Mm-hmm.
Then finally they got it to 30. Okay. It finally added an instant replay for certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they do everything at a snail's pace. Meanwhile, the NBA trying to stay ahead of the game. To their credit, they stay ahead of the game. Block charge, they took care of block charge years ago.
Mm-hmm.
College basketball took care of block charge, this year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Years ago, block charge was taken. Okay? Flopping. Flopping in the NBA was taken care of years ago. Now that you can do it because you can fine people. You can't do that in college. But, okay, finally it looks like college basketball is taking care of flopping to a point. They should do more, right? But why does it take them so long to do things? I don't understand why this sport goes at a snail's pace, which now brings me to the end of the game on Saturday. Each coach, and this has been in the NBA 2 years now, each coach should have a challenge. A challenge. And if you lose your challenge, you lose a timeout. Now, I'm going to take it one step further in the fairness of the game. If you're out of timeouts, I think you should be allowed to challenge. And if you lose the challenge, it is 2 free throws plus the ball for the opposing team.
It's attack.
In the front court. In the front court.
Yeah.
In other words, 2 free throws, not 2 free throws and the ball under the basket, 2 free throws and the ball at the other end of the floor. Okay? And that way they can go to the monitor and go, oh, boy. You get a challenge. Oh, and by the way, what's keeping them from the officials announcing to the crowd what the foul is or what the challenge happens to be? Right? What the video review happens to be. I always love when they do this, where they'll sit there and they'll look at the monitor, talk, whole thing, and then one of the officials go over and tell the TV guys. Well, what about the big wide world sitting in the arena?
Yeah.
Right? Jeff Brown has enough on his plate where now he has to explain what somebody else decided, hoping that he's got it exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, again, why is this sport moving at a snail's pace? Okay? They should be announcing to the crowd like the NBA does what the video review was about and what the result was. Okay? That way we all get to hear it. They should have the video review and a challenge from each coach. One challenge each coach. If you wish to use your challenge with 18 minutes to go, fine. If you want to use your challenge with 18 seconds to go, fine. You want to use it in the first half, fine. That's your call as the coach. But each coach should have a challenge. And the challenge includes a foul. And I don't understand why college basketball moves at the pace it does. The NBA has shown how to do it. Do it.
Yeah. Something the NBA does that I also think should be brought in here is this isn't during a game, but it's the post-game stuff where now you get the pool reports. So, and the 3 minutes at the end of the game, the end of the quarters, you get the last 3 minutes looked at by referees for the NBA.
Yeah.
And they will look and say, this was either missed or called correctly or something. So we can just get some afterwards. You say, was this a foul? Was this not? And because that way it keeps at least some of the onus on the refs to be like, you missed this, or you got this, good job, or whatever it ends up being, or you missed this call, or you botched this, whatever it is, because college doesn't have that. And as someone who's wearing the shirt of Syracuse, there is a certain referee who's widely known as TV Teddy, who just for whatever reason.
See, I like Teddy.
But
I've talked to him a lot, so I mean,
he is infamous in Syracuse. He is not a well-liked person because he makes calls that you sit there and say, that's not a foul, or he didn't touch him, or why are you calling a tech on Jim Boeheim for having his arms crossed, standing there, staring at his own players? What's the problem with that? Why are you calling a double tech on him? Huh? It makes no sense. And this game, there should be some onus on the refs and some, like, you messed up. You botched a call at the end of this game. So we're going to take you off assignment for the next week. Or we're going to do something because it's ridiculous.
They do quietly get suspended. They do.
Tell people. Say, hey, but tell us. Because that's the thing the NBA now does where they tell you. They've got social media. They say, hey, we messed this up. Now you can see we're trying to solve it. College doesn't do that. It makes no sense.
We can tell by box scores like X hasn't shown up for 2 weeks.
But
all right, now
that's a small thing.
Remember, college basketball is different in this regard in that they're independent contractors. So you may be the official in the Big Ten, but you're also working the Horizon. You're also working the Mid-American Conference. Okay. And that's where, we have to understand that part of it. A guy can be suspended from working in the Big Ten for 2 weeks, but he's still working the Horizon and he's still working the Mid-American. Okay. So that's the part that's
tough.
Difficult to tell. I've always laughed at the fact that we're going to send a pool reporter in to talk to the home plate umpire. Okay, college is worse.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So the 18-year-old who missed the last 3 shots of the game has to come out and talk to the media. But the 50-year-old who botched the call at the end is completely sheltered. Again, let's discuss the logic of this. The 18-year-old,
or in some cases 17 because they enroll early,
has to come out and talk to the media.
Yeah.
Because the locker room in the NCAAs and the Big Ten, in conference tournaments, they're all open. You have to talk to everybody. But the 50-year-old standing down over there with a 40-year-old over here, nah.
Hey, they're eating pizza, Steve. Let them off.
Now, I realize that when they go back to the locker room, the worst thing they can have is
phones.
A phone that looks at in the conference office or whomever's like, you need to look at this. And on an iPad, they can call up the play. And that happens all the time. People do not think that officials are accountable. They are. And they dread going back to the locker room. And this official was told point blank. Because it looked like he went over. It looked like he wanted to tee Mike up, and he was told point blank, "Don't do it because when you see it, you're going to be sick." And he had this look on his face, and he was told again, "When you see it, you will be sick." Don't make it worse. Well,
imagine he teed him up. Imagine how much worse this would have gotten.
Sure, it would have. It would have been exponentially worse. Now, somebody said to me, he says, well, I hope the league issues an apology. And I said, excuse me. I said, I've done this for a long time. I don't care if anybody apologizes. I said, unless you're going to tell them to go back out on the floor with 2.1 seconds to go and start from there, I don't care about anybody apologizing for it. Is it because you know what that means? That means nothing. That means nothing.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry, you lost. Really sorry that happened to you. Are you changing the result of the game? Well, no, we can't. Okay, then your apology means zilch. It just and that's something through experience over the years. You know, the end of the Indiana Penn State game, we apologize for going. Okay, well, I just did a post-game show with the head coach of the team that didn't win, and he's distraught. Right? Are we going back to 20 seconds to go, and Penn State has Greg Bartram at the free throw line instead of and a foul on Chris Reynolds? That's why I laughed last year when Penn State made the tournament. Chris Reynolds was the head of the selection committee last year. I go, oh, that's the guy. He grabbed Bartram's jersey. He says, here it is, Penn State's making the tournament. He has to announce it. All right.
I want to talk a little more about Penn State basketball real quick because it was a really interesting game to watch, not just because of what happened at the end, but I think because of how the team looked throughout the game in terms of who played and who didn't play. Yeah. That was intriguing to me to watch, was seeing for the most part, it was Wahab, Puff Johnson, Kanye Cleary, Ace Baldwin, and DeMarco Dunn. And Zach Hicks was relegated to a lesser role in this game. And that was just a weird thing. I don't know if it was matchup based or what it was.
Yeah,
but
Hicks had. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, his stat line is he had 14 minutes played and he had one shot missed. It was a 3, and that was it.
He had Reeves. Hicks had Reeves when they were man. And Ace had Kelly, I think.
Ace had Kelly pretty much most of that first half.
Kanye had the freshman.
Yeah. It's George, I think.
Nathan George.
Who played real well.
Yeah. So Puff Johnson breaks out finally, and he was so close on all, so many other shots. You're like, Jesus.
There was a few
snake bit.
You're like, that's going in.
But then he started hitting him, and he ended up with 15. Dunn had 17. Kanye had a big game. Ace had a really good game. But in this game, after finally getting Leo O'Boyle on track, he couldn't get anything going. You're not going to get anything going every game. He couldn't get anything going.
He got called for some tough fouls.
Zach Hicks, well, he's playing that 5 spot too. Yeah. Zach Hicks only took the one shot. You're like, he's a guy that you need to have consistently getting you 9 to 15 points a game. Between 9 and 15. You can't have him get 0.
And the number of threes you kept seeing get taken where it's like, this person's open. A lot of the time, Puff had wide open shots. You'd be like, I want him and Zach Hicks in those positions. But it was only Puff in that position because Zach wasn't playing.
Right.
So that would be big to give him some confidence booster of here's 6 shots that are open, have fun. Here's the green light to shoot them.
Well, if you're open. Now, and that goes back to the end of it. Let's go back to the end of the game. Let's take the foul out of it for a moment. And Dick made a great point, and I was right with him all the way. This is not a good shooting team, Georgia Tech. Make them take a jump shot.
And what they do.
And so Penn State defensively got exactly what they wanted out of it. They wanted Georgia Tech taking a jump shot. And he was short on it, woefully short. And then, of course, the sequence happens after that. And by the way, if people are wondering who ended up with the ball on the Kelly play, it was DeMarco Dunn. It was Penn State had the ball. And he hadn't been fouled by anybody because, of course, they blew the whistle. But there probably would have been 1.7 seconds to go when the foul was finally would have been probably given. Yeah, which means you walk to the other end, and it doesn't matter if he makes the free throws. Doesn't matter if it makes the front end of the 1-and-1. It's not going to matter because all they have a chance is for a 3-point heave anyway. And so you want to make them both make it a 3-point game, but they'd have to go 94 feet to do it. So they got exactly what they wanted and typical. And and let's go back to Ace at the end of regulation. Too many teams. Too many. It's not. It's
a trend
teams.
Going around.
Okay, too many players.
Yeah,
this is a player decision in the end. Too many players. Like you need any basket.
Mm-hmm.
Any basket wins. Anything wins. Free throw, as we saw, wins.
Well, that's my thought.
And like, so what did Reeves take? A 3.
Mm-hmm.
Any shot wins for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Ace at the end of regulation took a 3. Any shot wins for you. You don't have to. And I'd say 7 to 8 times out of 10, you'll see teams take a 3-point shot when any shot wins.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Like, I would get it if you are a elite 3-point shooter. Like, in the NBA now. If you're Steph Curry, by all means, go for it. For you, that's as easy of a shot as you're going to get.
Right.
But if you are anyone at this level, if you are Ace, if you're Kanye, if you're whoever on this team, Ace is faster than most people are. He got around his defender. He should have if he had gone to the basket, maybe he gets fouled, or maybe he gets some sort of shot off, which at least puts it in the realm of possibility of a tip in or something.
Or flip it over to Kanye, who's really good at the floater in the lane. That's how they took the lead.
Exactly. Just you're like, go to the basket. Because if you go to the basket, that's where chaos happens.
Right.
That's the idea in soccer of put the ball in the middle. Put the ball in the box because someone's going to get a head on it. It's going to hit off someone's shin, and it's going to end up in the back of the net.
Right.
That's the same thing here. Put it up because maybe Q gets a rebound and tips it in. Maybe it goes in. Maybe he's fouled and he gets foul shots. Something. Just go. Go to the basket.
Yeah, right. And so that's... So you have to regroup. They have Lemoyne. Lemoyne's won its last couple of games. Now, last night they played, Houghton or whatever, and they're supposed to win the game, and they won the game by 20. They led by 9 at halftime. But they beat Dartmouth on Saturday. And they were tied with Dartmouth at halftime and absolutely blew them out in the second half. They only gave up 14 points in the second half.
Not bad.
Now, is Dartmouth a world beater? No, of course not.
They're a decent team.
But I looked at it and went, I mean, when you're tied and only give up 14 second half points, I mean, the Sutherland kid can play. Owens had a big night last night. But again, that's a game they're supposed to win, and they did. Look, you just need to get out there on Thursday night and just go out and play your game and win the thing and get out of there. Get to the break, feel better about something. Because Saturday was interesting. Michigan has struggled. They blew out Eastern Michigan. Michigan State has struggled. They went into Little Caesars in Detroit, and they blew out Baylor. I mean, blew them out.
And it was like, I remember looking at the score line.
Kidding me.
45-17, I think, at halftime or something, and it's like, what? Isn't Baylor like a top team in the nation? What's happening here?
Unreal. So
the Big Ten's weird. Big Ten's really weird this year.
Well, you know what? But let me give you another one, though. Purdue beat Arizona, so they're back to being number 1. Fine. The game was on Peacock. Just like Penn State's game with Lemoyne on Thursday nights on Peacock. I know the world wants you to stream. Come on, everybody's streaming. Not everybody's streaming, okay? The NFL can get away with putting significant games on streaming because they are the NFL. But the 2 lowest rated games on Prime Video have been the blowout by the Raiders over the Chargers the other night and the Friday game between the Jets and the Dolphins on Black Friday. Those are the 2 lowest rated. So just because you're the NFL, hey, we got this game. Yeah, okay, sure you do. I'm busy. All right. College basketball can't get away with this. And it turns out that the first 2 games of the Big Ten tournament, by the way, in Minneapolis, will be on Peacock. That, Wednesday night? Whatever it is. I think it's a Wednesday night in Minneapolis. That will be on Peacock. And that's going to be. They're trying to force this in a lot of ways. Really? It's like trying to make you buy an electric vehicle. No, I don't feel like charging for 2.5 hours. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's certain, or, geez, how far can I go in this thing? Okay, I'm not making
it's an extra step.
I'm not making a political statement here. I'm just talking about the facts and the reality of it. It's like, I'm comfortable with what I have. Well, TV's doing this with streaming, where you've been comfortable with what you have, and for the most part, you're going to get still the same. It's still BTN. It's still, there's some CBS, Fox Sports 1. Okay. But, you put Purdue in Arizona on Peacock, you're trying to advance. Again, let's go back to what we're talking about with officiating. You need to advance the sport. That doesn't advance the sport. Okay? We're at a time of the year where college basketball is lost. You needed it, because North Carolina played, was it Ohio State? And that was on CBS. It was on CBS Saturday at 6:30. That's Kentucky. Well, that's where you needed that Purdue, Arizona on either NBC, CBS, Fox, whatever. It needed to be a national game. And it's like, you can't bury good games.
Do you know what the problem is? It's a very clear problem. Is college basketball is overly reliant on just having the Blue Bloods be on national TV all the time. That's Duke, that's UNC, Michigan State, and I think Michigan probably gets there too, and Kentucky. There's 5 teams that no matter what happens, they're going to be the choice for national TV over, in this case, Purdue, Arizona, who are 2 great programs, have been great for a while, and you're put these 2 on. They're going to say, no, we're okay. We're going to put UNC on because they're playing Kentucky, and it makes sense because they're going to draw a huge crowd, but we want to see number 1 and number 3. We want to see Caleb Love and Zach Edey. We want to see these guys who are going to be the best players in college basketball this season. It doesn't make sense why you do it that way, but it's college basketball.
It doesn't make sense at all. And you're trying to force people to do something. And no offense, I see the numbers.
Not great.
It's not working. And that is, in the end, people, by watching or not watching, and people, that's how they end up voting for what they want. What are their habits? And they're trying to change people's habits. Oh, they're saying, no, everybody's, they're cutting the cord and the whole thing. No, younger people are. All right? And I know they're trying to attract younger people. I got it. But how many younger people, ESPN wants to go more of a streaming model. Well, that's okay. Okay, so I am a Major League Baseball fan. Well, this is where the Netflix model comes in. I binge watched, pick a show on Netflix.
What is it? Squid Game.
As soon as it's over, that's it. I'm done. I'm dropping it. Ted Lasso was on what?
Apple TV.
Apple. As soon as it's done, I'm done. All right. I love baseball. As soon as baseball season's, I'm done. College football season, I'm done. So in other words, I have my subscription from August to January. I'm done. They're not going to get the money from February to August. It's very unusual.
There is an over-the-top push for streaming rather than a gradual shift. It should be a gradual shift. It should be you can catch these games both on streaming and on TV, or you can.
Oh yeah,
that's what it. Right. That's what it should be.
Exactly. When CBS carries a game, Paramount Plus is carrying it. Great model.
Yeah.
when NBC has been carrying games, so the Penn State-Michigan State game and the Penn State-West Virginia games were both NBC primetime games. They were both available on Peacock. Now you are covering the entire audience. Those who want to stream, right, and don't want to have a cable subscription over the air, whatever, they have it. That's the way it should be.
Like, I know I always bring up soccer. I know I always do it.
That's fine.
But that is the model that the Premier League has taken, and it makes the most sense. So, for example, next weekend, 23rd, the biggest game of the weekend, number 1 versus number 2, Arsenal versus Liverpool, two best teams in the league currently.
Right.
Their game is going to be on Telemundo, NBC, and on Peacock. So you can catch it on both NBC and Peacock.
Right.
So if for someone who doesn't have cable, I can catch this game on Peacock and watch it.
Yep.
Or I can watch it if I go to a pub, or if I happen to have cable, I can watch it there as well.
Right.
It gives you the ability to do both.
That's right.
And that is the best way to do it. There are some games they have only on Peacock, or some games only on NBC. But for the most part, they do most on both because it's the best model to do it.
Right.
And I don't get why college basketball especially wouldn't do that. Because if I'm a Syracuse fan and I really want to watch Syracuse, but I don't want to pay for cable, I can catch them, on streaming.
Right.
And it's great. It makes sense. The ACC network does it a little bit. Sometimes there's free games on ESPN, and it's great to watch, but those are far and few between.
Right.
You should have given the ability slowly to shift over, like soccer has with the Premier League. It was the best model. It was working. And everyone else saw it, college basketball, college football, and they were like, no, we're just going to do it our own way because we're better than them.
Right.
You're not. If you see this working for the Premier League, do it the same way.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
And you broke it.
Your job to me in media is to try and do everything you can to reach the widest audience possible, not to dictate terms. Right? So the NBC Peacock combo model, the CBS Paramount Plus combo model, reaches the greatest audience you can possibly get between the two. And I that's something that I think that to me that's the big part of this.
It also gets people accustomed to having those streaming services.
Yeah.
That for me, I now have Peacock year round because I want to watch soccer. I watch soccer all year, and then I'm like, is it worth canceling it for 4 months? No. I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep it 4 extra months. I'll pay the however much money it is, and I just keep it. And it then means, oh, look at that. There's a college football game on today. I'm going to watch that. Why not? It gets us used to it without forcing it down your throat. Right now, with the Peacock game that's for the Big Ten, they're forcing it down everyone's throat.
Yeah, that Purdue-Arizona game.
Yeah, that. It's like, why are you forcing this at us? Put it on both. Get for 5 years or so. Get people used to it being on both. And then maybe if there's 10 games in a weekend and all 10 are on both, this weekend 9 are on both and 1's only on Peacock. Maybe that's a shift you do. You very, very gradually change.
Right.
But they are trying to go a full 180 over to streaming. And it's not going to work because no one's going to want to change if you're doing it like the snap your fingers.
The fans are grumbling about it. Well, what's the attitude if you're sitting in a conference office or a network office? Hey, don't worry, they'll come around. That's your attitude? Don't worry, they'll come around? What you have to do in media is very simple. Right? Make sure they don't have to work hard to find my product. That's the whole key. Don't make the audience have to work to find you. And that's what they're doing. They're breaking a cardinal rule. And that is they are making everybody have to work like, hey, you know what? I don't want to watch that. I don't feel like going and downloading whatever. I'm not in the mood to do it.
Like when you've got the ability to say, I can either watch on my TV if I have it, or I can watch on Peacock. It gives you the ability to do both. It means most people have cable, but the diehards will have Peacock, and they may not have cable. So it gives us the entire group of people we're trying to hit. It gets all of them because there's no way you don't have at least access to one of those two things.
Right.
But if you say you have to have access to this one small thing, you're losing. You're losing out on everything because you're trying too hard to change now instead of just waiting.
Well, you know what? And there's one bowl game. I think it's the Arizona Bowl. That's Barstool Sports.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense. Who's going to watch it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a few people will.
Yeah.
But no. It's just, you can't make it difficult for people to find you. And that is what they are doing.
There's this weird thought of like, we don't want to divide where our viewership goes. You're not dividing it.
Yeah.
If they're going to watch on cable, they're going to watch on cable.
Right.
But if they have streaming and they don't have cable, they're going to watch on streaming.
Right.
Like, you're adding to your audience. You're not going to, people aren't just going to say, I'm not going to watch on cable. Cable's by far and away the easiest thing to use.
Right.
I'm always going to pick cable over streaming if I have a choice every day of the week.
Right.
And everyone else would agree with that because streaming is slightly delayed. It's just how it works. But when you say, oh, we don't want to divide our audience, you're not dividing your audience.
Right.
You're adding. You're adding more people. More people can see your stuff. I will click on a random game now and again because it's on Peacock and I got nothing else to do.
Right.
I wouldn't be watching that game normally, but I see it and I'm going to go watch it.
Right. And that's, yeah, it's
Just, it's not smart.
well, no, we know better than you. No, you really don't. The audience knows best.
Yes.
And you always have to assume that they know best because
they
are your consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You don't make your, okay, when you go into a store, the primary products are on certain shelves.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to work to find it because it's a primary product. Now, maybe there's something else you prefer and maybe it's a little more difficult because it's maybe a little out of the mainstream. Okay. But you can't make your audience, you can't make your consumer work hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is not a scavenger hunt. Right? You want people to have the ease to sit down and go, you know what? I feel like watching the bowl game tonight with Marshall. Okay, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. The Eagles game last night.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So let's go back to...
That was a weird game.
It was a weird game. But let's go back to something I said a couple of weeks ago when they were 10-1. I said that they're an 8-3 football team that is actually 10-1. Mm-hmm. Because the level of play has been like, okay. And you can just see that they're not playing anywhere near as well as they did last year. Now, they're still playing well. They're playing better than most teams. Okay, no getting around it. But there's something with them that isn't quite like now all the tumblers are falling into place.
You're missing something.
Whether it's defensively or even maybe occasionally some flow offensively, some penalties they didn't get last year. They've been really zeroing in on Jason Kelsey's ball movement before he snaps. You know, they've had a couple of penalties, and like I'm looking at it, and go, I can't even see it. Now, do they get away with a couple of things? I can't stand how they get away with how they play the tackles. Like, get up toward the line. You got to tell them, you guys got to move up.
Well, that was the same thing on the Kadarius Toney play, the weird one that he was offsides for. The tackle for the Chiefs as well was like in the backfield, and they didn't see it. I'm like, how are you not like seeing this dude sitting next to Mahomes or next to Hurts?
Right, way back. I mean, Johnson and the other guy are like always like, hey, you got to move up a foot. I mean, because you're in the backfield, but that's another point. But the Eagles have now lost 3 in a row. Now, they should be in pretty good shape. I mean, yeah, they lost to the NFL Man of the Year in Dallas. They lost to a second-string quarterback last night. I think a third-string quarterback is just what the doctor ordered, Tommy DeVito. So now,
donate on Tommy DeVito.
Now that they've gone from a first stringer to a second stringer, I think the third stringer is the key now.
The former third string Syracuse quarterback, Tommy DeVito.
Yes.
Sorry, he was second string. He was second stringer.
And they've got the Giants twice in Arizona. I mean, they'll get the fool's gold, and the fans will go, "Look, we're back." Yeah, okay, sure you are. Yeah. But they've put themselves in a position right now where they're still not the division leader.
Just wild.
And Jalen Hurts played sick last night, so I get it. And the game for him kind of played out the way I thought it would. I thought that you get out there, you've got adrenaline. The first drive, he was terrific. But as the game went, you could tell fatigue was setting in. Why is that pass going here? Why is that ball sailing out of bounds? Why is that ball skipped off the turf? He's not feeling well. They didn't run the ball enough, again, with DeAndre Swift.
You traded for him. Use him.
Right? And then defensively, now Matt Patricia's calling the defenses. On the last drive, which is a 90-plus yard drive, the DK Metcalf made 2 phenomenal catches. I mean, incredible catches. Now, the ball was really well delivered, especially on the second one, but he still made a great catch on the sideline. And the ball to Jackson Smith and Jigba is a terrific pass, but he reached out. I mean, he extended himself as far as he could and made that catch, kept his feet in bounds. Then Love's interception at the end. I mean, first of all, he's in the center of the field. He's playing center field. His first step is not toward the near sideline. His first 5 or 6 steps are actually going more toward the far sideline, and then comes back and reads it. And you know what? The Eagles did exactly what I thought they would do. They're sitting there with 13 seconds to go, and I'm sitting there and said, I'm watching it, and my first thought was, they're going to do something stupid here and try and go deep. Well, if I'm sitting there in my living room thinking they're going to go deep, what do you think Seattle's thinking? They have better minds than I do.
I think they're going to go deep, Steve.
Yeah.
That's what I've never understood when there's like 10-plus seconds left. And all these teams are like, we got to Hail Mary it now. No. Take a shot 20 yards downfield. Get yourself within range. Maybe something works out really well and it pays off and you can go for it. You got 5 seconds left and you can go for a decent shot downfield all of a sudden. But they're like 80 yards away and they're like, Hail Mary or trick play. I'm like, no, you've got the time. Run something 20 yards, get him out of bounds.
Well, say Brown catches the ball. Okay. You probably have a chance. There's 6 seconds left. Maybe one chance at the end zone. Maybe, but
it gives you a shot. It gives you a chance.
But that's all it does because the clock might run out. It's not one of those he would have caught it at 8 or 9, and boy, we can definitely take a shot, and we miss it, we'll kick a field goal with Elliott. At 6 seconds, you're right into the gray area. And that's the part that I found to be interesting on the decision, because the decision was not going to score them a touchdown. And I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. It will never make sense.
No.
I want to ask you, going from a quarterback discussion to quarterback discussion, the news came out today. Dylan Raiola has officially flipped from Georgia to Nebraska. This, of course, comes after Nebraska tried to recruit Kyle McCord, who ended up going to Syracuse. And Carson Beck, the Georgia quarterback, is returning for his senior season for Georgia. So both kind of coincided with one another. What is your feelings, firstly, on what this means for Nebraska, but also the fact that this kid flipped now 3 times. He chose 3 different schools before he, I believe, got into the collegiate game. He had chosen Ohio State, decommitted, flipped to Georgia, family moved there, ready to play for Georgia, and flipped from Georgia to Nebraska before he even played.
Well, okay. So as we do the show today, he hasn't signed yet. So technically, I'm not allowed to talk about him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So just so you know.
In a hypothetical world.
So now let's take, if I see a player, so I can't talk about him specifically.
Mm-hmm. Let's say Kyle left.
But tomorrow, right, I could talk about it, obviously more. All right. So now let's take Kyle Leff.
Mm-hmm.
If Kyle Leff verbally commits to Ohio State, then changes and verbally commits to Georgia,
mm-hmm.
and then even goes to high school in Athens,
mm-hmm.
and then verbally commits
to Syracuse.
to Syracuse, sure, good enough. Yeah, might as well.
We're not taking specific examples here, but yeah.
Right. Okay. There are a couple things that run through my mind, and one is, geez, I'd like to have the odds of him being in the transfer portal a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I realize that in this case, there are a lot of, I'm sure there are a lot of Kyle Leff family members that went and played at Syracuse. So because they did, that's probably part of the draw, the lure.
Yeah, that I had my father played at Syracuse, and then my uncle, I believe, is the quarterback's coach.
So
it's I don't understand how this, I get that the whole commitment, decommitment thing is a part of college, and we've seen it a lot. And I know Syracuse, we got mad when Darius Baisley decommitted from Syracuse and went to the G League with this weird stuff. But this is a lot.
James does everything he can to say, hey, look, we're done. You're in. Great. You're not going to go in, Hey, it's not always going to be perfect, but they'll have 25 guys signing tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I think 24 of them at minimum. I mean, I don't know if it's all 25, but let's say at minimum 24 of them got it done and said, that's it, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to this has really nothing to do. I mean, like I said, what are the odds that he's going to be in the transfer portal at some point when you have this kind of pattern? Okay. But they need to do something about the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have Ryan Snyder on tomorrow, we'll talk about this. You can't have coaches scrambling all over the country. Oh, and by the way, have to get ready for a game, have to get ready for a practice, and trying to scramble all over the place with the signing day coming up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So as backwards as I've talked about college basketball being in terms of how long it takes to do something, they're way ahead of football on this. Way ahead, not even close. College basketball has had an early signing date in November, right around the first game of the season, give or take a couple days. And they've had it for over 20 years. And guess what?
It works.
It works. You're telling me that college football can't have an early signing day on August 6th? During training camp?
Yeah.
We're now, all these guys who just want it to be over with. I've made up my mind. I don't want to be bothered anymore. And the vast majority feel that way. Some love being recruited. All right? Have an early signing date and a late one on the first Wednesday in February. I don't understand why you can't do that.
Makes no sense, Steve.
I don't get it.
I don't think they get it. I don't think the NCAA gets it.
And structure it in such a way where only half the coaching staff can be on the road in the month of June at any given point so people can stagger vacations. Right? I mean, just something as simple as that. I mean, move the signing day to the first week of August during training camp. Get it over with. Because the people who are signing want it over with.
Everyone wants it done. Families want to know where they're going. Do you think the hypothetical lefts wanted to move to a new state to go play football there and then have to change to a new place immediately afterwards? No. No one wants to do that.
I've advocated this for a long time. And because the calendar makes no sense at all that you would put it here. I'm all for the early signing period. I've always been for that. So I'm glad they did it and they got one. But the time and it's going to get worse next year. Okay, why is it going to get worse? Guess what is scheduled next year on December 20th and 21st next year?
I don't know, Steve. What's scheduled for those days?
College football playoff.
Whoa, what?
There'll be one game on Friday the 20th and 3 on the 21st. So that's why, I mean, let's face it, the Kirby Smarts, he doesn't have to do it this year, but Nick Saban, people like that, who have had to recruit and get ready for the biggest game of the season, while recruiting at the same time. It makes no sense. You've got to move it out of this area. Get it to the first week of August, because in the first week of August, the vast majority of prospects want their life settled and want to enjoy their senior year in high school.
It's like early decision. I want to know where I'm going to school before the school year ends.
Yes.
I want to know so I can set up my travel and so I can communicate with family and figure out where I'm going to live.
Or I want to go out, I want to play the game against Selinsgrove coming up on whatever night, and I'm already settled. I don't have to worry about that. I want to enjoy my senior year. Maybe I'm going to be an early enrollee. Okay, so I'm going to start on January 8th at Penn State. Great. I mean, whatever it may be, you now at least have that all settled. And that's the way the vast majority of prospects feel about it. And for the coaches, they need to have this done in such a way where they're not sitting there and like a ping pong ball bouncing all over the place during the month of December. Makes no sense.
No sense. But what does make sense is tomorrow you said you're going to have Snyder on. We're going to have him on here on the show. It's going to be fun.
And Neil Coulong trying to explain the Steelers, which is really an impossibility.
It is an impossible job, but the non-impossible job is yours to come back here and listen to more Sports Talk with Steve Jones every single day of the week.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve